Welcome to Hack Shack Studios. I'm going to give a couple minutes, let some people get in here. It's a very, very sad day for me. Somebody who was a major, major part of my life. Oh my gosh. My family told me I should do this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep it together. Eddie Van Halen has passed. He's gone to rock and roll heaven. So, I don't know, you guys. I've talked about being a major rocker in the day. Grew up in the 70s, well, teenage years, the 70s, and thought I was going to be a musician, actually, more so than an artist. So my main goal was actually to play music. And so there was a local hero, guitar hero, and his name was Eddie Van Halen. And I grew up in LA County. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. LA County. And they were Pasadena. Van Halen was Pasadena, but they played all the surrounding LA County areas. I lived in Norwalk, and there was a place called the Golden West nightclub, and they used to play there all the time. I remember I was young. I was young-ish, I guess, and I remember, going by the Golden West and seeing Van Halen up on the marquee. I remember seeing the Runaways on the marquee too. I was still a little young, so when Van Halen was kind of doing their thing early on, playing backyards and some of the clubs and things like that, I was a little too young to really be able to see them. So I do regret that. That would have been to have that story. But I started playing music when I was about 12, 13. I bought my first drum set and everything. So anybody who lived in the area knew about Van Halen and knew about this guitar wizard named Eddie. And so it was a major influence on me. Even before I really got to hear them, I already knew about the legend. If you grew up, like I said, in the area and you played music, hard rock music, you knew who this guy was. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm kind of ignoring you. I'm a little emotional. Like I said, my daughter and my wife are like, you should talk about it, because I'm talking about it to them, and it doesn't mean that much to them because it didn't have the same impact. So if I'm boring you guys, I apologize, but I just felt like I needed to, I don't know, surround myself with maybe some Van Halen fans. So I'm probably not doing a great job of setting all this stuff up. Yeah, 2020 does suck, man. I knew Eddie was sick for a while. The artist formerly known as Mike. Hey, man. I needed that laugh. Yeah, it freaking sucks, man. I knew he was sick, and I'm so thankful, because I wasn't gonna go. My buddy Norm Ratman practically dragged me out of my house to go see Van Halen. This was a couple years ago at what used to be Irvine Meadows, if you guys know the area. I don't know if it's still called, maybe it's called the Spectrum. I don't know what the hell it's called anymore. But yeah, we went to go see him, and it was with David Lee Roth as the front man. So there were a lot of, you could be very critical about, yeah, they weren't, at the height of their game, whatever. But I'll tell you, Eddie still shredded. He still brought it, and I'm so glad I saw that, because I believe that was their last tour, and people knew he was sick, but they were kind of like, well, it's in remission, or he beat it, or whatever, the heck it was. So there's one thing about cancer, is I don't know if it ever truly goes away. I don't know if anybody truly wins that battle. Nova Blast said Eddie had health issues throughout his life. Yeah, I mean, he made it to 65, and one sad aside, when I did see Van Halen, um, his brother, um, the drummer, um, he had some problems too, like health problems, because he was helped in and out of I'm sorry, I'm reading some articles while I'm going. Um, I think he has some kind of bone problems, or like degenerative bone problems, because he was kind of stooping over quite a bit. And I'm sorry, you guys. Yeah, I'm looking up some stuff here. This is horrible. Yeah, so anyways, I'm sorry, I'm back. So yeah, he was kind of stooped over. Alex Van Halen was stooped over, and I think that he had somebody kind of help him up as well. So once he got behind the drums, he was fine. But I think he has some kind of either back problems or bone issues. I'm not really sure what it was, but well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's hitting me hard too. Art, he was the background of my childhood. Oh my gosh, this is hard. There's a few moments in time, I think, when we look back at our lives, especially, I'm an older guy. Yeah, he battled for 10 years. That you look back and you go, man, these people had a real big mark on my life, like just a big turning point up to that moment. And then you look back, like for me, was the 66 Batman TV series. It was comic books. It was Star Wars. It was Kiss. It was Van Halen. It was, hard rock, kind of thing. And so, all that stuff had a major, major influence on me. And so I saw him you saw him in 92. That's good. Lucky. And yeah, it stinks. Yeah, thank you. I was searching for Alex Van Halen. I wanted to call him Anthony Van Halen, but that's the bass player, Michael Anthony. He was totally original. There will never be another like him. Yeah, so I do, like I said, like the legend. There was already a legend, like even before they made it big, before the world took notice. We all knew that this guy was something beyond, something to pay attention to, something beyond the norm. And so I remember I was working as a clerk, box boy at a local supermarket, Market Basket, and I love that job. And I was in my car, and I pulled up, to get ready for work. So I'm in the parking lot of the supermarket, and I'm listening to like KLOS or K Rock or something like that, and this song comes on the radio, and it's "You Really Got Me," the Kinks cover that Van Halen did. And I had no idea that it was a cover song. I had never heard the Kinks version before then. So I'm listening to the song in my car, and I had to get to work because I was running late, but I couldn't turn off the radio. I had to listen to the whole song. So I'm in my car, stressed out because I'm going to be late to work, and I hear this song, and I'd never heard anything like it. It just blew me away. It absolutely, like, just kicked my ass. And so after that, I remember as soon as I got out of work, I drove to Licorice Pizza. Yeah, there's a blast from the past. So we had a Licorice Pizza that was in that same shopping area. So I went over there, And I asked the guy, I was like, because I didn't even really know who did the song. I just heard the song. And so I was like, it's You Really Got Me. And I wasn't really sure. And so the album had just dropped, I think. And so not very many people even knew about the album. So the guy was like, here's the album. And it was the Kinks album. And I looked at it, I was like, there's no way that this was, Van Halen. They didn't look contemporary. The album didn't look contemporary or anything like that. So I was like, no. It's like, and then I think I was like I think it's Van something or other. And so then the guy couldn't help me. Like the album must have just dropped. And so as I was looking through the store, there was a little bit of a display that somebody was putting together, and it was a Van Halen display, the albums. And I looked at that album and I was like, holy shit! It's like the VH is in the middle and it's split into fours, and all those pictures, they look so freaking cool. The drummer, I think, is holding up his sticks. There's smoke effects everywhere. Eddie's like, all this shit. And I was like, that's got to be it. So I bought the album. I brought it home. And I'll tell you, that song was just the tip of the iceberg. Atomic Punk, what is it? Ain't Talking About Love. As soon as I heard Ain't Talking About Love, I had to learn how to play it. I taught myself how to play all those songs that night. My neighbors must have hated me. So I'm just listening to the record and pulling the needle back and trying to learn it on the drums, just trying to, emulate what I was listening to. And freaking changed my life. It changed my life. I didn't know rock and roll could sound like that. And so I thank you. I thank you, Eddie. I thank you, Van Halen. The whole band were extraordinary. I still was a little young, so I didn't get to see him at the Whiskey either, which was really, God, it just, I mean, I was old enough that it had influence on me, but man, if I was maybe even like 2 or 3 years older, I think I would have been able to see them in a nightclub, because even when I was playing nightclubs, I was pretty young. So I had to have my parents sign a waiver so I could get in the club. Of course, I just forged their signature. They never signed it. But yeah, that's how I got to play nightclubs when I was in bands, because I was a little too young, and they served alcohol in most of the clubs I played. So yeah, it was pretty bad. So oh my gosh, On Fire, holy shit, vocals. That, yeah, as soon as I'm done here, that's all I'm going to listen to is Van Halen songs all freaking day. That first album is absolutely amazing. The second album's pretty good, but the second album, it seemed like they were kind of getting into that, not goofy, but the edge started kind of like rounding off a little bit, and then they kept kind of going in that vein. And I think that was a little bit of maybe more David Lee Roth's contribution to the band, but that first album, On Fire, that song, do 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 fire, it just keeps going higher and higher, and it's like, holy shit, man, this is crazy. Atomic Punk, that I remember, even when I eventually did see him, Eddie would turn his back. I think he played, like, a lot of his tricks, he would turn his back to the audience because he didn't want people to learn them, those ideas. He at least wanted to have his moment in the sun before, because everybody who played guitar, it was a game changer. Everybody was playing those licks and trying to learn those tricks. After that, yeah, 2020 freaking sucks. Awful news. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, even if you never saw them, the albums were incredible. But that first album is absolutely mind-blowing. They had an edge. They had a veracity. They had just that freaking, it wasn't angry, but it had like, it had this like, this muscle to it, which was just absolutely amazing. What would you know about Van Halen? Oh yeah, I know. Actually, you're like a historian on everything in the past. So some of the first songs I sang in my neighborhood band were Van Halen songs. Oh, very, very cool, man. I didn't know you sang in a band. Magic Cop is subtitled Drop Dead Legs. That's a killer song, yeah. Drop Dead Legs. Yeah. Yeah, balls indeed. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Yeah, and Eddie did play. Um, wait. I just hit the same one twice. Yeah, Eddie played that solo on what is it Thriller? Which song is the one where Eddie plays on it? I don't even remember now. I'm very, very bad at recalling things. If you guys hadn't noticed, um, Eddie changed my life. Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's horrible. My wife is in tears. Oh, that's so bad. We were eating lunch and my daughter she's looking at her phone and she saw the news and she's like, "Dad, you gotta." Oh, it's Beat It. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So that's the Jackson song, and also that was a deal changer for Michael Jackson too, because later he started bringing some more rock and roll edge to his music. I think he brought Slash in, and I think even Steve Stevens played on one of the Jackson songs. So I love Steve Stevens too, but you could tell that guy's from the Jackson or from the Eddie Van Halen school. Um, yeah, so the first time I got to see him, I had to see this show, man. It was legendary. Even people that don't live in California know this show. So it was at Anaheim Stadium. This had to have been, I don't know, 77, 78, somewhere around there, maybe even earlier. And they played the Big A, Anaheim Stadium, and Van Halen was one of the opening acts. And it was Van Halen, Blue Oyster Cult, Boston. I think Boston and Blue Oyster Cult were probably the headliners. Sammy Hagar was on the bill. And so I was there to see Van Halen. That's it, man. Those other bands are okay, but I was really there to see Van Halen. So um, just a funny aside, my friend and I, we bought extra tickets, right? So we had these girls that we asked. We're in high school, and we said, "Hey, do you want to go to this show?" And they said, "Yeah." And so then I think they were sisters or something like that. And so then just a couple days before we went to the show, they had to cancel because they were really young, as we were as well, but our parents didn't know what the hell we were doing half the time. And so they had to cancel out. And so we had 2 extra tickets. So we asked a mutual friend of ours if he wanted to go, and we gave him the ticket, but we said, "You have to sell this other ticket, and then my friend and I will just split the fee." So we gave this guy, this bonehead, the ticket, right? So we're in the parking lot. We're getting ready to go to the show at the Anaheim Stadium to see Van Halen. And so some guy comes up and says, "Hey, you got an extra ticket?" And so this bonehead says, "Sure." And he goes, "Let me see it." He hands him the ticket. This guy was a monster of a human being. So he just goes, "Thanks," and he walks off with a ticket. And so he wasn't really my friend. He was more my friend's friend. And so I said, "Hey, man, like, that guy didn't pay you for that ticket." He goes, "Yeah, but what was I going to do?" I go get my money. And so he wouldn't do it. So I went up and keep in mind, my other friend, he was a big dude. And so I figured they were both going over there with me, right? So I got tunnel vision. I go up to this guy and I said, "Hey, man, you didn't pay for that ticket." So he said, "Yeah, so?" And I said, it was like $8 or like something like that, $8.50 or $12, something like that. It wasn't even a lot of money. And so he goes, "No," I said, "I'm not going to pay you." So I kept following over, and then he's now with his like little tailgate friends, this little party there. And so they're smoking dope, drinking beer. And so as soon as I went over there, those guys stood up, and they were equally as big. And so I said, "Hey, man," and I said it really angry, like I was going to be able to kick this guy's ass. I go, "Hey, man," I said, "I need my money." And so the guy just turned around and he punched me right in the face, man. There was no warning, man. He just turned around. His fist was the size of my face, and he just boom. He just slammed me because, one, I didn't see it coming, and two, I mean, he hit me with everything he had, and he just knocked me to the ground. So then, as I was getting up, I turned and I noticed my friends weren't there, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Now I know why this guy punched me. So then, you know, I go over to where my friends were supposed to be. They weren't there anymore. So then I had to walk all the way to the entrance. And then my friends were like, "Hey, what happened, man? Where were you? You saw the whole thing go down. What do you mean, where was I? I went to go get the money for the ticket." And so they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't know." So, you know, these little pussies were like, you know, acting like they didn't know what had gone on. And in the meantime, my nose and my mouth is all bloody. I mean, the guy punched me good. I'm lucky he didn't break my nose, but I had braces on at the time. I had some serious mouth issues. So when he punched me, my braces were just like, he just punched me so hard they just adhered to my lip, my inside lip. So I kind of had to pull my lip free from the braces. They were just shoved into there, man. My mouth was jacked. That guy was a dick. And so, anyways, that was my little aside. So we go in the show. I'm a little shaken. These guys are jerks. So we fired up, you know, a bowl, and so Van Halen they're getting ready to come on. So we're like, yeah. So all that stuff, I'm forgetting all about it. And so all of a sudden you hear the narrator or whatever, the moderator, whatever they call those guys, announcer. Hold on for a sec. I'm sorry. Between the emotions and my allergies. And so the guy says, "Look to the skies. Van Halen is going to make a grand entrance," or something like that. So everybody's looking up to the sky. And then we see these parachutes. We see these 4 parachutes with, I could be making this up, but I could have swore they had VH on them. And you could see them as they were coming down. And we're like, holy shit, that's the band. They're parachuting down to the show. And so, of course, most of this is happening behind the stage. So we're like, holy shit, man, this is rock and roll. This is killer. So we were up higher, so you could see there were 4 limos in the back behind the stage. So as they're coming down, the 4 limos go to take off to get these guys. And I don't think these guys had any experience, if it was even them. I think it was them. But I want to believe it was the Van Halen guys. And so they all landed at completely different places because we could see it from our vantage point. Like, one of them was over the side of the freeway, because anybody knows Southern California, there's a freeway right next to Anaheim. So I was fearful that one of those guys was going to land on the freeway and just get hit. So he landed the side of the freeway, and then the other 3 guys were all over the place. So it took them quite a bit of time to get those guys and then bring them back to the stage. And I'll tell you, man, they did not disappoint. They played in broad daylight, so they didn't have stage lighting or anything like that. They floored me, man. They floored me. And I think I forget the song, but yeah, Eddie was still turning his back to the crowd when he was playing certain parts, so nobody could see. But man, I'll tell you, it was once in a lifetime. It was a once in a lifetime show. So I'm so glad that we went, even though I got punched in the mouth and everything else. But it was a blast. It was so freaking cool to see, and to hear them. The wall of amplifiers was crazy, man. I guess I have to say, old school rocker, man, and they hit every note for a young, aspiring rocker like myself. It was it was amazing. It was nothing short of amazing. And I'm going to have to thank Norm Ratman after this for getting me to that show, because I do believe that it was a couple years ago that it was Van Halen's last tour. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I'm very lucky that I got to see them both times. And the only thing I do look back, like I said, if I would have got to see them, oh, can you imagine a backyard? Like if I saw them at a backyard or at one of the local clubs. Like I said, the Golden West. The Golden West has some cinematic history, because they used to film a lot in Norwalk. So Chips, the TV series, used to film there a lot because there was a neighborhood. They were expanding the freeway. I think they were creating the Century Freeway. So there was a neighborhood that the city or state had bought all the land, but the houses were still there. So Hollywood would go in those areas, those neighborhoods, and they would dress up the houses to make them look like people lived there. And so a lot of the crazy stunts and stuff, they would do there because they could use the neighborhood and stuff. So we used to go watch them do all kinds of crazy flipping cars and stuff like that. And then I think the movie was called Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill and Annie Potts. And so my friend lived right like across from this do-it-yourself car wash. And so they were filming a scene with Mark Hamill, and I guess it's about a Corvette or whatever. And so he takes the car in and he hoses the car off, and that's the car wash. It's right there. So we went in there and watched him film the scene, and we were big Star Wars fans, and he just happened to have a Star Wars t-shirt on, those cheap iron-on ones. And so he got Mark Hamill to sign the t-shirt, which was pretty cool. And so that Golden West, that area of Norwalk kind of looks like a small area of Las Vegas. So I think in Corvette Summer, they go to Las Vegas or something like that. And so I think one of the streets that they go down, in the background, you can see the Golden West, because it looks like a Las Vegas sign. Like the whole building has all these lights and stuff on it. So it looks like a Las Vegas building. So it kind of doubled for the downtown, like Las Vegas, I guess with the Strip. I guess they call it the Strip in the day. They called it. And that place has one more claim to fame other than like Van Halen breaking in there, the Runaways, Cherry Bomb. And there's a world record. I remember growing up, Norwalk was I call it the pits of hell. It was a weird place to grow up. There's a lot of disparity and stuff like that, as most of LA County was. But there was a lot of odd things that happened there too. So it had a big sign, the Golden West sign, and it rotated. It looked like a Vegas sign. There was a guy, this is the old days when you could do stuff like this before everybody became legal crazy. He had a bed. There was a bed on top of this sign. I'm not kidding. It was a poster, like a 4-post bed. Like you could see it from the street. And I guess they bolted it down to the top of the sign. And the guy lived on top of the sign. He lived there. And I guess he was trying to set like a world's record for, I don't know how these things work, but like a Guinness Book of World Records thing for how many hours or days or whatever you could stay on a sign. I didn't even know there was a world's record for it. But anyway, we drive by and there would be that guy up on the bed and he'd wave to us. And I guess he had a bucket with a rope on it, and he'd just pull it down and people put food in it, and he'd bring it back up and he'd eat. And I guess he set a world's record. So yeah, that place was really, when they tore it down, I was really sad, because when they tore that club down was just about when I was old enough to play there. So I know in my heart of hearts that we were good enough. Some of the bands I played with, especially TKO, I think we would have been able to play there, because we played all the other clubs. So I think that would have happened. Let me see this. Corvette Summer is an allegory for Art's quest to get that ticket. Only dollar without what's it? Love. Oh yeah, the love interest. Was Annie Potts was Annie Potts a prostitute? I I did okay in the day. I never had to pay for it gladly. I was never opposed to it, but I never had to. Uh, oh, Philip still says Corvette. I think Philip's a Corvette guy. Yeah, Joshua, R.I.P. Was it an ugly Corvette? I don't know. Like some of the early Corvettes I thought were pretty cool, but maybe it was the 70s versions. There was a time when the Corvette went through like some ugly design aspects. Let's see what Soap Maker says. Would the classic 1980s hard rock and metal albums sound the same without Eddie Van Halen guitar sound? No, they would not. There would have been something else. There was Boston, and so that was just a really big, like meaty guitar sound that you didn't hear, like just crazy power chords, and that was pretty influential. But I don't think it had the same impact as Eddie did. And I think Eddie also inspired the modern generation of guitar virtuosos, which I am a fan of. I do like some of that just soloing stuff. I thought it was interesting. I did think like some of the hair metal bands, I think they took it in bad directions. Oh, is that what the premise was? Somebody stole Luke Skywalker's Corvette, so he had to get it back or something? I don't remember what the crux to that movie was. People watch the VHS or the S Festival '83 performance. It's just as good as the cult film of Diamond Dave's stage raps and drunkenness. Yeah, I think Dave kind of turned Van Halen into a little bit of a parody or a joke. Having said that, I do like David Lee Roth. I really do, but I wish there could have been a little bit more balance with the Van Halen band, where there could still have been there were some edgier songs, but that first album, man, it was crazy good. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep clicking on that. Yeah. Oh, wait. It was moot point. Dang, Art, the more you talk, the older I feels. But keep it up, good times. I thought that was going to be a slam at just me. Like, damn, you're old. Yeah, I'm freaking old. But you know what? I grew up in a great time. What does Adam Carolla say? Something post-Coke or pre-Coke, post-AIDS or something like that, where you can still have fun taking drugs and womanizing. And there wasn't the PC nation and police that were going to, smite you. So you could still have fun. Like as a teenager growing up, I think it's hard. Any teenager has it hard, but it was pretty good looking back at it, especially, like I said, when people started becoming really scared and logistically speaking, lawyers and politicians started basically taking the fun out of the world. Oh, you know what? It's so weird because I always liked REO Speedwagon, but I'll tell you, if it wasn't for oh my gosh, Gary Richrath, is that the guitar player's name? I don't think I would have been able to stand that band. He was a really good guitar player, and it wasn't until I started hanging out with guitar players that I realized how good that guy was, because they would tell me That guy is really, really good. Is his name Gary Richrath? He ended up, like, I saw a VH1 behind the music. That guy, you talk about drugs and alcohol, that it just destroyed that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys know what I'm talking about. Post-code, pre-AIDS. Yeah, I think that's right on. So I'm not sure if Adam Carolla is my age, might be a little older, but we definitely grew up. We grew up similar. So when he tells his stories on his podcast, it's similar to the way I grew up. And it's funny because I had a similar observation. Like when we were kids, we just did stupid shit, and it almost seemed like we had a death wish. And I think because I don't think he says it, but I don't think life had the same meaning. Like I don't think I cared. I don't think I cared if I lived or died. I don't think it was a conscious thing. I don't think I was like, yeah, if I died, this would be great. I just don't think the thought ever occurred to me. But I did do a lot of questionable stuff in the day that any helicopter parent, if their kid did one of the things that I did when I was a kid, they would have locked their kid away forever. Okay, let's see what Death Metal Hero says. Oh, they were SJWs. They just weren't able to be as loud, as annoying. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always been, I guess, really controlling parents. I was never around them. Like every parent that I knew, it's like, all right, go do whatever as long as you're back by dinner. You know, that was it. Thank you. Kevin Cronin, that was the singer, right? Gary Richrath, I think, was the guitar player. Kevin Cronin, when I lived in Manhattan Beach, that guy lived in the neighborhood. And so when I'd go clubbing on the weekends, that guy was in the clubs, and he was an older guy. He always had, like, they looked like they were teenagers, man. Hot girls, but man, they were really, you talk about something that looked like dirty old man stuff. That guy always, it was weird. Like he would come in the club with the girls. He wouldn't get the girls at the club, but good for him. You know, like who am I to judge? But he did pretty good. I think when you're young too, you just look like that's an unfair advantage, man. That guy's a rocker. How dare he? That girl could have been mine. Like that could have happened. I never understood the cocaine thing. Tried it. Meh. I didn't mind. Aren't the patron saint of comics? There was a moment. I think it was just life. I think you have to grow up at some point. So I think there was a series of events that happened in my life that I just kind of had to grow up. There are some that would disagree with you, man. I lived in Hermosa Beach. I lived in all the beach areas, you guys. I couldn't stand like living, like even when we bought a house, I couldn't live in a residential, like a traditional residential, the way I grew up, like a concrete kind of area. I just couldn't do it. So when I left the house, I moved to the foothills of Whittier, which was a little different than where I grew up. And it was nicer. There was a little bit of open areas, and there was some woods and trees and things like that. But from there, I moved to Huntington Beach, right off of Main Street on 5th. And there used to be another club there. It was something golden too. It was like the Golden Bear. It was called the Golden Bear. And that club in the 60s. It was right. The real estate was prime, man. Like Huntington Beach, when they call it Surf City, this also predates me a little bit. That place was jumping, man. when I moved to Huntington Beach, it was still cool, but man, like just a few years earlier, that place was jumping. There was a club called the Golden Bear, and it was right across from the pier. Anybody who's been there, you've seen it in movies and film. It's the pier and everything. And so now it's like they tried to turn it Huntington Beach into little what is that, Newport Beach. Bad idea. Like, you can still see the riffraff, you can still see Surf City below, like if you look hard enough, you can still see the cultures there, even though they tried to bring money in and tried to bring up like the real estate prices and built a bunch of condos. It still didn't work. But anyways, there was the Golden Bear, and the Golden Bear in the 60s, probably mid 60s, late 60s, those guys, there would be like Jimi Hendrix played there, Jefferson Airplane played there, like any band that was in the day, anything, they all played there. That place had historical significance. They should not have torn that place down, but that's what I can't. Sometimes I just think that I just feel like everything that I'm into, nobody respects, right? Like nobody really respects rock and roll, and nobody respects comic books. So yeah, they tore it down, and they tore it down just when I moved there. So I just think about this, like it was walking distance from my apartment, like it was a block. I could have just walked over there and saw any freaking band I wanted to. It would have been a blast. And later, when I did move to Hermosa Beach, I lived right up the street from what the hell was it called? Comedy and Magic Club. Like it was a block. So I got to see the renaissance of like comedy. So what was it? It was probably, like when Seinfeld was breaking, Tim Allen was breaking, like all of that stuff was, Roseanne Barr, all of that stuff was just hitting. They all played that club. And so I would just walk down, get tickets, and see the show. And I'll tell you, Tim Allen, it was like a rock concert. It was like Beatlemania. That place was jumping. It was nuts. You look now and you just go, Tim Allen, whatever, Tool Time, like a soft Hollywood guy. That guy was like, he could bring the crowd, and he played it. I remember even when I didn't see him at the club, I could hear the act from my apartment, which was a block away, because they'd have to crank the sound so loud because it was like a rock show. Like the crowd was so loud. And even then he had that woo, 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 or whatever, like you chanted, like he'd say more power, and then people would go all caveman or whatever. So it was pretty nuts. And then Jay Leno, later when he would host or guest host the Tonight Show, I think the first weekend of every month, he would break in new material at the Comedy and Magic Club. So I saw Arsenio Hall, I saw David Spade, I saw everybody there. It was freaking cool. So I didn't get to do the Golden Bear thing, but I did get to see in its heyday the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa. I lived in Manhattan, so that's where, like I said, that was the Kevin Cronin story. So that was there. And then I moved to Redondo Beach, and Pamela and I, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we got a split level condo. So the X-Men money was coming in. So we got a place. I did not grow up in the beach areas. I was born in Long Beach. We moved to Lakewood, which was a nice area. I wish we would have been able to stay there. And then we moved into HUD housing in Norwalk. Like I said, we were poor. But my dad did manage. I mean, he purchased land. You can't do that now. But he purchased land. We did have the house, and it was paid off. When they passed, that house was paid off. So for being poor and growing up, my dad still kicked ass and raised 4 of us. And we never did without anything. So R.I.P. Dad. Chewing on picks. He was a chain smoker, man. Eddie Van Halen was he smoked like a chimney. I always thought it was still a cool. It was a cool visual dynamic where those guys would smoke. I think like even Hendrix did it. Jimmy Page did it. Where they would put their cigarette on the end of the guitar, on the head of the guitar where the machine heads are, and they'd put their guitar or the cigarette lit there, and then they would shred, and then they would just take it off, take a hit off of it, and put it back. I always thought that was a cool dynamic. I liked everything that was bad for you. Everything lifestyle that could hurt you, that was pretty much what I was into. Oh, does he look like Death Worm? Well, those guys are all old now. Yeah, I mean, these guys were like the generation even before we started playing, so they were the guys that were influencing us. So Kid Maudlin, or Man Dude, I'm sorry, Kid Man Dude. In 2015 interview with Billboard, Van Halen revealed that he had given up smoking cigarettes but blamed guitar picks for his cancer diagnosis. Seriously? What was he swallowing them? Because he had throat cancer. A lot of people that do that chew a lot of tobacco can get like mouth and throat cancer. He was in a band called Scream, but he was there almost every weekend as a teen. Who is that? Is that? Oh, who are you talking about now? Are you talking about David Grohl? Dude, I hung with David Grohl when he was a nobody at the 930 Club in DC. Wow, that's pretty freaking cool. David Grohl is the closest thing, I think, and even he's like from a different generation. He's a rocker. You know what I mean? That guy's the real deal. I like that. When you watch him, you can tell. There's just, I don't know, this sounds weird, but like an authenticity to him. And I do think to play rock and roll, there's a few criteria that have to be met. One is, I think you have to be abusive to yourself, and you have to just not give a shit about any social norms. And yeah, I just think that those things have to be there. You just can't care. You just can't care to that extent. And I don't know. I think there are musicians today that are really, really good, and I think because they've seen a lot of YouTube videos and they could master it. And there's a lot of like school of rock type schools and things. But I think those guys that came from the streets, and it's weird because one thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot, and it's more like for poor white kids, and believe it or not, privilege is bullshit. I'm sorry, anybody that believes that there's such a thing as like white privilege. There is privilege, but I think you have to have money, or you have to have opportunity that necessitates privilege. If you're a white person, you're born poor or you're raised poor, and there's just no money, I don't know where the privilege comes from. Your struggle is the same. But, you know, like you hear a lot of like inner city kids and stuff. It's like sports, like basketball or boxing, you know, those things. And those things, if you got really good at it, they aspired that it was a ticket out, right? They could better their life. And when I was growing up, it was the generation that like white kids would aspire to be rockers, because, you know, rockers had the cool lifestyle and they made a bunch of money. A lot of that was untrue, but at least that was the glam and glitz, right? And it was tangible, like especially growing up in LA, and I guess New York City had, you know, like they had rock clubs, because there was a kind of a New York, but it was kind of more hair metal, like Bon Jovi and stuff like that. But prior to that, there was kind of like, you know, Kiss, New York Dolls. There were a lot of New Yorkers that were, I guess it was CBGBs, and there was a lot of stuff that came out later to like Blondie and Talking Heads and stuff like that. So there was, you know, stuff coming out there as well, but it wasn't really the metal scene, and the metal scene was kind of here, like hard rock and metal. and so yeah, I think that it was a way out. And to be honest, not that any bands that I played with were ever like hugely successful, but it did get me out of my little world, my little neighborhood. So I got to go to Hollywood. I got to go into LA. I got to go in Orange County. I saw the seedier sides of life, but it did broaden my horizons because we went all over the place to play different places in LA County. So I did get to see a lot of things. Like I said, it was probably all the seedier side of things, but it was there. Yeah, I still love him. Like I said, I'm going to go do just all day. I'm going to listen to Van Halen songs after this. So yeah, there was a punk. Yeah, it was kind of new wave punk that kind of came out, the Ramones and stuff like that. But that club, the CBGBs, and there was also a club because I went there. I went to CBGBs in the day, and also there was a place called, was it the Lighthouse or something like that? And maybe somebody that's familiar with New York clubs. It was an old church, and it was gutted, and they turned it into a nightclub, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, I never saw any cool bands there, but a lot of those bands did. The Limelight, yes, that was it. The Limelight, yeah. I thought that was a neat looking club. It had a cool feel. A lot of clubs feel claustrophobic, but this was open and everything, so it was pretty neat. And then I think they did have like, yeah, you guys are on it. And so I would go there when I was in New York City, and it was pretty cool. I dug it. I just like live music, you guys. It was always cool. Oh, Patti Smith, you guys are old. Have you ever read or listened to the audiobook of Patti Smith's memoirs, Just Kids? It's so beautifully written and captures the New York scene in the 1970s. No, but I will. And that's why I always love these chats too, because you guys always turn me on to stuff that I'm interested in. And yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan, R.I.P. too. Man, that guy could play the shit out of stuff. Yeah, and who thought Stevie Ray Vaughan would fit in with like David Bowie? Like, that was a pretty cool little moment with David Bowie when Stevie Ray Vaughan was playing with him as well. I did get to see Stevie Ray Vaughan play before he passed, so that was pretty cool. Just hit 50 myself last week. Tomorrow, I'm pushing 60, you guys. Yeah, so I got 10 years on you, Alan. Well, 9 years. 9 years. So there's no guitars like Van Halen anymore. Yeah, and the cool thing is, oh my gosh, I got the handymen. They're helping out, putting the house together because we're selling the house. So yeah, they got the saws out. We're fixing the deck. Wait, tell a story of Eddie trying out for Limp Bizkit? There's no way that happened. Eddie Van Halen tried out for Limp Bizkit? I don't see that happening. Let's go back to Spears' car. Yeah, the hub of CGBGs. CGBGs. What was that? What were the initials? I can't remember now. Was punk bands like the Ramones. Yeah. Could you imagine like seeing the Ramones at CBGBs? That would have been crazy. Early happy birthday. Thank you. 60. Yeah, I'll be 59 tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. So yeah, I wanted to kind of leave you with this. I found some cool images of Eddie in the day. So hopefully you guys are seeing this. I'm gonna start getting all weepy again. Um, this is crazy to believe, but I guess that's the plan, right? That's the deal. You're born, and then you have to move on. So Rock and Roll Heaven just got another player. I love his guitar stories too. Like these guys were innovators as far as just sound, because Eddie pretty much bastardized the guitar. And you talk about being a poor kid. Listen to how that Frankenstein guitar was made. The guy bought, like, they weren't even, like, it wasn't a real like Strat body, and he pretty much just bought what he could afford. And then I think the early, I think they call it the Frankenstein, like his guitar was all like just, it was like electrician's tape that was taped all over it. That thing was crude looking. But he hollowed it out, put a humbucker in there, did some other like customizing, and basically built his own guitar, which is pretty killer. And I do remember bringing it back around to the Kinks that I forget, Ray or Dave Davies, I can't remember the guitar player, which one it was, but he actually cut a hole in his amplifier speaker, and that's how they got that distortion in the day. So they were playing, with straight like Fender amps and stuff like that. So everything was very clean. But he realized that if you rip the amp speaker, it would kind of distort. And so that was enough to get that kind of raunchy, dirty sound. And I do think he was probably one of the early pioneers. But this was high tech, low tech. You know what I mean? These were like poor kids just figuring out how to do shit, and I love that aspect to these guys as well, that they were, they were pioneering not just how to play, but they were also pioneering technology. Even like that Dave Schultz, what was his name? The guitar player for Boston, Schultz, I forget his first name, but that guy, he was more of a technological guy, but that big sound and all that, he created that. This wasn't like a tech industry building stuff for guitar players. These were guys doing it themselves. I even remember like Phil Collins, and I think it was even Alex Van Halen, when they were able to sample like drum sounds, those guys were getting pissed off because, in the studio, those guys had to create that sound. Those guys would tune the drums a certain way, pad the drums a certain way, mic them a certain way, and then put a certain amount of effects on the drums. So those guys were creating their own drum sounds. So these guys were, it wasn't just they were good players, they were also creating their own sound. The good ones were innovating their own sound. So, once again, Eddie, art, look at that fucking image. Oh my God. He was a great showman too. The guy had everything. He had everything going on. He had a good look. He had good stage presence. He had great dexterity. He was an innovator. He understood music. His dad was a musician, so he understood music on a deeper level. And holy shit, dude, R.I.P. There are interviews with him where he talks about building that guitar, his first guitar. And if you guys are kind of fans of just, the creative process, check them out. They're all over the internet. YouTube has a bunch of them. But there are little documentaries and little interviews with Eddie actually talking about creating that guitar, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I'm just a big fan of the creative process. So it's interesting to hear him talk about that. Yeah, Eddie started on the drums. Yeah. And Alex, I think Alex was guitar, right? Alex beat the hell out of those drums. Yeah, he did. And there was some stuff too, like when your brother is Eddie Van Halen, I think it's hard to get the limelight. But Alex was no slouch either. There was some cool shit. He was bringing in some serious like jazz licks and stuff to metal, but he was doing it like with double bass sounds and stuff like that. But and he was one of those, you guys, before God, I'm so old. Before, like, as I was getting out of the music industry, click tracks were starting. So click tracks, if you guys don't know what it is, it's like there's like a metronome like sound, and so now all the tracks are synced to an electronic click track. So there's no variation in tone. So in the day, if you listen to even like some Floyd songs, like early 70s stuff, 60s stuff, there would be like natural places where the band, like they would exercise dynamics where they would slow down, or those drummers would play by feel. There's a thing where you could drum by feel. Now everything's very technical. It's very like on the beat. So I'm not saying that the new drummers aren't good, but they're very technical. It's like very tight, like it's like it's boom, boom, it's spot on. Those guys from the 70s, not that it was sloppy, but it was by the feel. Like they played by feel. Like a great example is John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. And so that's something that you're born with. That's something that you just have innately. And Alex had that. And I kind of miss the drummers from the 70s. I like a lot of the modern drummers too. I loved the Rev from Avenged Sevenfold, one of my favorite drummers of late as far as bands. I can't remember the drummer's name off the top of my head. I should know it from Dream Theater. Very, very good. But those guys are still very, you could tell like it's very on the beat. And so Bonzo, yeah, very, very good. Yeah. So I do miss that, because I just don't think you're gonna have like music that feels or moves you the same way. Because Mike Portnoy, thank you. Because that's just the way those guys played. But there are stuff like Mike Portnoy and like, you know, the Avenged Sevenfold, the Rev, what's his name, Johnny? No, that's Johnny Five. That's the guitar player. I can't remember his name right now, but anyway, they're innovative, but they're just very fast, and like they figured out like all kinds of cool double bass tricks, which are amazing. And I do listen to that stuff, and I do emulate it and play it. And I'm not saying one is better or worse. It's just there's a feel that it's like kind of an undefinable thing that some older drummers had that the newer ones don't have. Carl Palmer, I saw Carl Palmer. Actually, it was a Norm Rapman. I have to blame him as well. We went and we saw, it was kind of like a prog rock show, and they had a bunch of like prog rock bands. And so I think the headliner was it was Yes, and then what is the other? I think Carl Palmer was in the band. It was after ELP. They were kind of more like pop music. It wasn't quite as much prog, but they had a bunch of prog players in it. Holy shit! What the hell was that band called? But anyway, I got to see them, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Moody Blues, not Frog Rock, Prague. It was like progressive rock. Asia, that's it. Asia. Yeah. I thought they were okay. I think they had members of Yes, ELP, and was it the Moody Blues, or was it another band like that? Yeah, Neil Peart was actually kind of, he was that new drummer. That was the guy that was very technical, like very on. And I think that's drummers started changing, I think, based on that guy's influence and the click track. So yeah, it was Asia. Yeah, Don't Cry. Yeah, some of that stuff was okay, but it's very poppy. I can't really listen to it now. It's a little too little. It's a little too poppy, I guess. All you all are youngsters. I'm 67. Holy shit, man. I'm like almost 10 years, not quite 10 years behind you. So that's cool, man. Keep the party crazy, my friend. And remember the 50s through 2000 eras. Um, yeah. I still listen to everything, you guys. I don't even, I wouldn't say that I have like, oh man, back in the 70s was when rock was king. Yes, I'm sorry, Buddy Rich by the Phil. That guy was crazy, crazy, crazy good. Um, but yeah, I like all music from all eras, as long as it's got like more rock and roll. I'm not really a country guy or like even jazz. I can listen to some more progressive kind of stuff with guitars and things like that. But not really like the more traditional stuff. But I do like listening to like Buddy Rich drum solos and things like that. I got to go back. Thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate it. That was very, very cool. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm kind of all over the place. Um, I'm still a little shaken, and there's a lot of construction going on in my house. Yeah, they do. Like the drums, like they're not kind of, the sounds aren't individual, because I think they can change the sound too much in the studio. But I think in the day, those guys, they were tuning those things themselves, like I'm not a big Genesis, I'm not a big Phil Collins guy, but you have to admit, like, there was a sound there. Like Phil Collins, like No More, like No More, No More. Like all those sounds are very, very unique. And to him, like you could listen to In the Air, like that's one of the most famous drum rolls. And I think because the drum roll isn't anything that's that clever or hard to play. I just think it's the way it sounds, like the drums sound. You know what? Tommy Lee is one of those guys. Like he's more of like a not contemporary, but he's more of like modern. But that guy's kind of got that 70s feel, and probably because he grew up on that style. So he does have that. And also like David Grohl. I think David Grohl, the reason I like him too, and his drummer is because they still have that feel. Like those guys, if they're playing to a click track in the studio, they're ignoring it at some point. So maybe they might put some basic tracks down. But the reason I do like David Grohl is because he's a drummer and he writes drum tunes. Like even though a lot of that stuff, the new stuff, he's not playing drums too, but he is writing guitar stuff to a drummer, because all that stuff is all like Foo Fighters music. It's all kind of you can play drums to. Let me go. I like some bluegrass. I like anything as long as it's really, really well done. Is that how he got the sound, like single-headed concert toms? It makes sense. Like that's another thing about like if you have double, like if you had two heads, which I do now, you can change the sound by just tightening the lower head too. So you have more of a range of things that you can do. In the day, I did have a Ludwig set that was really small, and so I took the heads off the back just because I was playing a lot of live shows, like backyards and stuff like that, and I needed the drums to be loud, so they were louder if you had open heads. So yeah, that guy played by the sound, and he did have a sound too. Yeah, there's a lot of good drummers. You know what? I always wrote Bunny Carlos off, and I've been listening to a lot of Cheap Trick, older Cheap Trick, and a lot of documentaries and interviews with Bunny Carlos. and you realize how much impact that guy had on that band. Like he's kind of unsung, and he was kind of a behind the scenes guy, but he was really good. He fit that band. Like they've done albums without him. It just doesn't have the same feel. So that's one of those guys that I'm talking about. It's like an undefinable, it's a feel. Like that guy, every drum lick just kind of feels right. Nothing feels forced. Nothing feels false. It all feels authentic and real. And that's that kind of drummer. The pitch and harmonics. Yeah. I mean, Eddie definitely got, a lot of stuff from Hendrix and things like that. I mean, he was pulling from a lot of we all have our influences, but it's like what you do with those influences. Even the Beatles started off by playing American cover tunes. Bill Bruford of the day, holy shit, man. You talk about somebody outside of the box. If you guys don't know, listen to some old Yes. If you can get past like John Anderson's high-pitched vocals and some of the softer lyrics, I don't have a problem, but I know some people do. And I have to admit, I have to be in the mood to listen to some of that Yes stuff. But Bill Bruford of the day, some weird ass shit, man. Timing changes and stuff. I like Alan White too. Speaking of changes, is the song Changes the instrumental, the one that goes doon 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 doon. As a drummer, you're like, fuck, how does he do that, man? And then you learn how to play it, and you're like, it's not that hard. But man, God, I still have the drums set up, even though we're moving. I was lucky. The lady that staged in the house, she goes, those can stay. So she thought the drums would be a cool selling point for the new buyers, like a music room. Because like I said, like the studio's like 2 rooms, and they're kind of bonus rooms, so they're big. You can use them as bedrooms as well, but I don't. And so she's got, she asked me to keep those, so I can still play even though the house is turned upside down and most of the stuff is out of here, all of our sofas and everything. So yeah, you know what? I'll say something as well. In the day, growing up in the 70s, every generation kind of looks back and it's like they have a little bit of contempt for what came before. And so I didn't like Elvis. And believe it or not, I didn't like the Beatles. So when I was young, my sisters listened to the Beatles, and I grew up in the height of Beatlemania. I was really young, so I wasn't like a teen, but I do remember the influence, and I remember loving that stuff when I was a little kid. But it wasn't till I got older and I started really listening, like Rubber Soul and like the transitional Beatles, like from that kind of poppy. They were pretty edgy, and Ringo Starr had his moment in the Beatles. I know if you listen to my show, you know I've kind of bagged on Ringo Starr over the years, but early Ringo Starr, that guy, watch those old concert footage, he was hitting those things, man. That guy was a rocker. He was pounding those skins, and he was hitting them so hard. Like if you look at the live footage, they didn't have the hardware that we have now. And that hardware was moving all over the place. And so I learned to listen and like, it wasn't like it was hard, but I was more older. And also even Pink Floyd, like Pink Floyd, I just thought were burnouts, so in the day, I didn't really, it was there, it was on the radio, but I just didn't, I didn't listen to it. And so the good part is like now I'm older, I can listen back and I go, holy shit. This is where this came from. This is where that came from. So all the bands that I like or liked in the 70s, I can see how they were influenced by these other bands. So like Elvis now, I love that stuff, man. I love some of that stuff was really ahead of the time. The early Elvis stuff, really cool. So thank you so much for the $2.99. I do appreciate it. Unexpected, anytime I get a super chat. So I do really appreciate it. So thank you so much, Bull Durham. I appreciate the super chat. Very, very cool. Did he really? I won't hold that against him. Oh, that Yes song sounded like the Cowboy Bebop song. Maybe, who knows? Um, Keltner. Yeah, I don't know. I never liked the electronic drum sound. The only thing I liked is the ones that went boom, 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 like those disco ones. I always wanted to do a drum roll where it's like you have this beefy like boom, 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 boom. You just hit those things, and I told you, I said this on another, like when they start sampling things, I wanted to do one like a drum roll where it was like, this is a little trashy, but where it was like a girl like getting off sexually, so like be boom, ooh, boom, ooh, ooh, boom, ah, boom. I just get it in, all these weird things, but I'm a little twisted that way, but I never did. I never ever did. I never could afford like a lot of technology, so I never really embraced it in the day. So Art was into the Bay City Rollers, LOL. No, no. There was a band that was kind of Bay City Rollers-esque. I think they were called Sweet, and they were kind of, what would you call, I guess, glam rock. They did Ballroom Blitz and stuff like that, and they were really weird. That was a really weird band, but I kind of liked them. I'll tell you, Chuck Berry and Little Richard, those guys don't get a lot of credit. And I tell you, instead of, if I was an African American gentleman, and I wanted to like really praise my group, my racial group, I would say put Chuck Berry up there, man. Praise that guy's glory. Some great stuff. And when you start playing early rock and roll, like on guitar, those are all Chuck Berry licks, man. They're all his. And so then Little Richard, you talk about an edgy son of a bitch. Holy crap, man. There would not be a Paul McCartney if there was no Little Richard. So yeah. So, when they go, oh, well, somehow like there was some kind of conspiracy that the white man just, wrote the black man out of rock and roll history. I don't think so, man. It's in the very, very DNA of rock and roll. You can't dispute it. It's so connected, you cannot dispute it. I always sung those guys praise, but I don't hear a lot of other people doing it. Was that it? I know, but there's a lot of other left-handed, like even I think, was it Bunny Carlos left-handed? And isn't either, like Phil Collins is left-handed too. Ringo's problem was being left-handed and played on a right-handed setup. It's easy to set a drum up for left or right hand. I wonder why he did that. He didn't have to do that. All he had to do is put the snare and the hi-hat on the other side and then change. That's weird. I mean, I don't know why you would do that. Why, if you were left-handed, you would play on a right-handed setup when you could easily change that. I know there's a lot of left-handed people that are more ambidextrous. So a lot of them, if like Ringo, let's say, they could ride the hi-hat with the left hand and then hit the snare with the right hand. So where most cross over like this, they can do it this way. And so I think you have more dexterity and you don't have to watch out for this. This is a real problem, like when you cross your hands over when you're playing the drums. There are many times I hit myself with the drum stick or just missed a beat because I came down on it wrong. So I do like watching left-handed drummers because they can kind of do stuff. They can ride with their left hand, and you could teach yourself do that. I mean, if I practiced it, I could probably do that because I think most drummers have a certain level of dexterity, or what do you call it, ambidextrous with both hands, so they can do stuff like that. And I know I can lead with my left foot because there was a time when I broke my leg, and I didn't miss any of my gigs. I just set the drum set up. It's still right-handed, but I moved the bass drum over a little bit so I could play left-footed. So I played with my left foot, and I never had a problem with my left foot. Even when I rode skateboards, they call it goofy footing. So I was kind of ambidextrous with my left hand, my left foot, I should say. I'm probably boring you guys with all this drum talk. I think I just need to talk. This is a celebration of music and Eddie Van Halen. I've tracked drummers that were left-handed but played right-handed. One put his right over the snare. Hard to record. Huh. So he would, yeah. You know what I always thought was cool, like to do the ride cymbal, is if you only have one tom instead of two mounted toms, you only have one, and then you have your floor tom over here, and then you have your ride cymbal right where that other tom would be. I always thought that was a cool look, like that low ride cymbal, because it's really big. It would just like ride over the bass drum. I'm such a drum geek, you guys. It just looked cool with the one tom up like this, and then you could just kind of go down and you could ride the cymbal, the ride cymbal. And they were about the same height as your hi-hats. Most of the ride cymbals are up a little higher because you have to go above that one tom. This is the best Comicsgate music nerd stream. Thanks, Jasper 9, Plan 9. I do appreciate it. What? How did we get on this? The best film ever, Breakfast Club? Don't you ever forget about me. Oh, you guys are into movies now. Oh, My Left Foot, the movie. Yeah. According to Keith's book, Little Richard would scope out a venue for secret entrances to surprise the audience every night and enter from a different place. Mick took notes. Yeah, that's cool. Hey, Arthur Brown, what's up? What's up? All right, I think I'm gonna start wrapping this up. Okay, I'll do it, man. I want kind of a lot of land. I don't want to live right next to my neighbor because it might be a little tough for me moving into a new neighborhood playing the drums. So I was thinking I might have to soundproof it a little bit. But if I have a little bit more land, I'll be able to just play them straight. Yes, back on track. R.I.P. Van Halen. Yeah, Eddie, you will be missed. I hope your struggle with cancer wasn't too painful. I know that that's a bad way to go. Eddie was the king, the guitar player, the guitar king. Yes. R.I.P. Eddie. I am inconsolable. Yeah, it's gonna hit me. You guys, like I said, I'm gonna listen to Van Halen songs all day while I'm working on Black and White. You guys, it's coming along, man. Some of these Black and White pages, oh my God, it's so hard for me not to show you guys. I want to show you so bad, but I can't. Yes. Let's do. One day I want to do a music exchange with you, Art. Though I have no idea if you'd be happy to listen to extreme metal and doom metal. You know what? As long as it's good, I don't mind. Some of the death metal, like the harder stuff, I don't like it just because I get bored. Like I like my daughter was into what they call screamo, but screamo was like it'd be a little bit like there would be melody or it'd be melodic, but then it would go into like screamo or like more like that stuff. And I like that, but some of the death metal stuff, it doesn't vary from that. It's just like there's no melody, there's no real chorus, there's nothing. It's just like and verse, chorus, bridge, it's all the same. So I like listening to one or two songs, but I get kind of bored after that. I like the energy and I like the intensity. The drumming is absolutely insane, but it's a little too, maybe it's just a little too consistent. It's not even the repetition. It's just it's a little too consistent. Because I don't want to make it sound like I don't like it, because I do. You need to find some melodic death metal then. Is there such a thing? I don't know. I'm not that familiar with death metal. Like I said, it's not that I even have a problem with it, because I do see the influence. Like even stuff that my daughter liked when she was, because there would be like the screamo, so there would be it'd be a little like melodic or poppy, so there'd be like bridge and choruses that you could sing along with, but they would have some of that screamo stuff, kind of like what was it, like Limp Bizkit, some of those like Linkin Park, and what was the other bands? I can't remember some of the other bands, but they would have kind of rap. It'd be kind of like rap rock, and they would put some of the rap influences in, or even when I know Iron Maiden hates this when like heavier rock brings punk influences in. Like I love that stuff. I love when there's like these extreme things like punk or death metal or whatever, and they bring that into another like genre or like more traditional like metal or rock, hard rock. I dig that, man. So what is it? I saw a screamo, then the thing just jumped. Where was screamo? Yuck, Mandy has. I hate my parents' taste in her music. I don't know. There were some bands that were okay. There was a band called Get Scared, Escape the Fate, Black Veil Brides. They were kind of Kiss-like, but we would see them in clubs. They would cost like $8 or $12, $15 tops to go see them. So the price was right, and we'd get to see them in clubs. So I didn't mind. I think if I had to pay more for it, but I think that was really short-lived. I don't think there's much of that anymore, that more screamo, because I think that came out of like emo with that more like metal stuff with it, and I didn't like that, like emo. And I know like what was the band called? They did Black Parade. I liked them for a while. I think they had an album or two that I liked. Gerard Way was the singer, and they kind of got that punk screamo or emo. I guess they were calling them emo flat out. And I think even bands didn't like the label. So I think I remember reading interviews where he was denouncing the emo factor. So I don't even know what is considered emo. Somebody said, well, it's emotional music. Well, any music that's good is going to be emotional music. I can listen to a Beatles song and weep, Ha ha, Limp Bizkit. Yeah. That guitar player in that band, I can't remember his name now. He was like an Ace Frehley type. He was trying to let everybody think he was some kind of alien from another planet. But that guy was pretty good. My Chemical Romance, yeah. I thought that Black Parade was kind of like, for the lack of a better term, was emo meets like Queen or something like that. It was very operatic, like Day at the Races, or what was it, Night at the Opera. Wes Borland, yeah. He put out like some solo albums that are freaking weird, but I dig them, man. He was like Vinny, what's the guy's name, the virtuoso that played with David Lee Roth? Vince, oh my gosh, was it Vinny? But yeah, AFI, like some of that stuff was pretty cool, but I think that was in that emo, right? Emo is teen angst. She was the perfect age for it. She's kind of grown out of it since. Yeah. Well, even like Nirvana had like they were kind of poppy, but they were edgier songs. So I like that when you can listen to something and it's kind of catchy, but they're bringing other influences in. I always thought, like, if Dave Mustaine stayed in Metallica and they could have got their shit together, it's my same fantasy. Like, if David Grohl was allowed to be more influential in shaping those albums later. Yeah, that's the band I was thinking, Papa Roach. Not Vinnie Vincent. He played with David Lee Roth, and then he did a lot of solo stuff. But he was kind of that weird precursor to Wes Borland. Yeah, but you have to admit that shit's weird. But that guy, the reason I liked Wes Borland is because, one, that guitar sound was freaking huge, man. Just massive. And I hadn't heard like a guitar sound like that in a long time, maybe ever. I mean, later after that, but up to that point. And also the guy could still shred. So he was kind of a good hybrid of like a Eddie Van Halen type. Yeah, same. I'll be listening to Van Halen. What? Are they? Why is YouTube holding all the death metal's comments? Is that true? I don't know. Yeah, Nirvana was one of those bands, like if David Grohl, like if you listen to like some of those behind the music, I think, or what are those where they have an engineer and they break down all the tracks for the bands. I think it was the Nevermind album, and you hear like David Grohl's like backing tracks, and you realize, dude had pipes, man. He had freaking pipes. You always think like it's just what's his face, just doubling up his vocals, but it's actually David Grohl. And a friend of mine, a musician friend of mine, he said, you never want to double up or too much double up your own vocals because it sounds weak. If you can get another voice in there, it always sounds better. And so I think the reason a lot of those Nirvana, the vocals were so big is because of David Grohl. But could you imagine like songwriting influence getting into that band? I think it's probably the only grunge band that could have potentially sustained it. Because I used to think like grunge had run its course, like when what's his name, the singer died. But when that happened, I thought grunge died too. And I thought, well, they took it as far as it was going to go. But then you hear David Grohl and you hear like the solo stuff that he did. And then you realize, I think what would have organically happened is the record company, even though the original, God, I can't even remember. Steve Vai, that's it. Stephen Vai, thank you. It was Vai, not Vinny. Oh, thank you. You guys got it even before then. Thanks. I forgot where I was. But you could have, like the record company would have put on like pressure, because they knew that David Grohl had this. Like everybody in the know had to have said to themselves, this guy's got some talent. And I think what would have organically happened is that Nirvana would have progressed into Foo Fighters. I think that would have happened, but it still would have had what's his face as the singer. Alice in Chains. I like Alice in Chains way more than I liked Nirvana, to be honest. Kurt Cobain, yeah. Let's see what. I've heard people endlessly praise David Grohl, but don't you think Dave actually learned a thing or two from working with Cobain that allowed him to go? Yeah. I think it was a little bit of both. I'm not taking anything away from David Grohl. I'm not, but I do think that Kurt Cobain was going to have to change. I think that when he died, I think it wasn't just like that he died and then the whole grunge thing died. I think it was already starting to go away. I think music was already starting to change. But what I'm saying is, I think if David Grohl started having more influence on the band organically, I'm not talking about like a big coup and they just fired, Kurt Cobain and all that other stuff. No, I'm talking about if those guys could have organically, you could have had a Lennon McCartney, type of thing. You could have had a cool, like, even in the day, like you look at Pink Floyd and you had two really, they butt heads, as most of those guys always did, but you had two really influential people, like good songwriters that worked together. So I think, like, I just think about it like the potential that band had, and that never made that potential. They never hit that potential. What is Chris Cornell? But who's the other? Scott Weiland. For my money, fucking Weiland was the shit, man. Chris Cornell in the day, right? I always thought like he was kind of like a red rocker. He was like I forget that guy's name. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. I'm blanking on names. But yeah, I think in the day that guy had the vocals. I think somewhere along the line, Cornell blew out his vocals. When he was young, though, man, he was the shit. But Scott Weiland, all the way up to the end, fuck, dude. That dude. And I'll tell you one thing, too. Songwriting, lyrics, everything. He was really good. Like he was actually one of the key guys behind the scenes for Limp Bizkit. Like I don't think Limp Bizkit would have had a mark if it wasn't for Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland is musical. He's not just a good singer, lyricist. That guy's musically inclined too. Like that guy understands shit. He's a good songwriter, not just lyricist as well. Let's see what Philip Steele says. I love how Gene Simmons calls grunge takeover when the pizza delivery guys took over rock. He can say whatever he wants. I think hair metal needed to die. I think it started getting Ballad City. I'm sorry if I'm stepping on anybody's toes, but if I heard one more ballad done by a hair metal band, I think I would puke, man. I know that it got a lot of mainstream coverage and it helped them sell multiple albums, but I think it became very commercial. Those guys were whoring themselves out. All those songs sounded similar to me. I didn't care for it. So when grunge came in and Nirvana and Pearl Jam specifically, like when I first heard Pearl Jam, I thought they were pretty good. And then Soundgarden, the first Soundgarden album was killer. Stone Temple Pilots, for me, they were the shit, man. SDP in the day. I even liked what was it called? Velvet Revolver. Velvet Revolver is one of those bands. They were the shit. They were the real deal. That was a rock band. You could hear it, man. All those guys were players. I mean, real authentic rock players. That first Velvet Revolver album is great, man. Scott Weiland. In ways, I like it better than the Stone Temple Pilots stuff. Just badass. I'm gonna listen to some of that too. But yeah. I mean, Kiss started getting into more of that ballady stuff too. So they benefited off of it, and that's fine. But I think it did become ridiculous, and I think it did need to die. Like I said, I'm sorry if I'm stepping on anybody that was a hair metal fan. I think some of that stuff when they first started, like Rat and bands like that. I do think that band Angel was more of a pioneer in hair metal. I think they just got an award last year. They predate all of that stuff, but only by a couple years. And all those guys knew about that band in the LA club scene. They all knew that band. So that influence was definitely there. That bands definitely later took advantage of. I know that most of those guys, like the guys from Rat, I know Rudy Sarzo and a lot of those Quiet Riot guys knew that band. I think Rudy Sarzo even played in that band at some point. So yeah, there's at the beginning, I think there was some good stuff. I think it got crazy. Mick Mars and Tommy Lee runs were amazing. Yeah. I was just talking to my daughter because she was talking about Motley Crue, and I think Mick Mars is very, very underrated. I think some of the bigger voices like Tommy Lee and even Vince Neil and what's his name, the bass player. I think the bass player, he was the driving force, but musically speaking, he probably had the least to do with it, other than the tone and some of the lyrics. But the lyrics aren't that great. I think later he got better at it, but Mick Mars's guitar playing was pretty. It was slightly above, and it was before its time, I think. And he had a guitar sound that was unlike anybody else. Listen to the Leather. What was that? The EP in the first album. The guitar sounds pretty badass. And then even Wild Side, there's some shit like the way he goes in there. Ding 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 ding. Bam bam bam. Taka 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 taka. Fucking brilliant stuff. Slash. The cool thing about Slash is he's not underrated. Like he gets all the praise that he deserves. That guy is a really, really good guitar player. He's from the old rhythm and blues, kind of like Aerosmith, like guitar playing. Yeah, Mick Mars, I think, is highly underrated. I just don't think he was a troublemaker. Like I don't think he was like a womanizing troublemaker. Wait a minute, I saw like Corey Feldman in the chat, and then it just jumped. Corey Feldman? Did Corey Feldman die? I didn't know about that. Are you serious? Corey Feldman, that's Frog from Lost Boys, right? I'm gonna type this in. Corey Feldman. Sorry, you guys, I gotta check this out. Did he die today? Did Corey Feldman die, Amanda?
No, not that I know of.
I don't know what.
Are you typing it in?
Yeah, Corey Feldman.
Corey Haim's been dead a while.
Yeah, Corey Haim's, but his career's dead. If that's what you mean, Bob. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Pamela, Amanda. There's too many names. Nikki Sixx wrote the lyrics. He did not write the music. I think he might have had some ideas. I don't think he wrote the music. If he did, then I'm sorry, Nikki Sixx, you're a frickin' genius. But I thought that Mick Mars was writing most of that stuff. Okay. Yeah, he was old. I think he played in another band. Yeah, that's good stuff. What was his name? He oh my gosh, Rogers, something Rogers, right? I think grunge was needed. It was really, really needed. It was like a musical cleansing. Like there was contempt in the music. They were definitely going these big bands, like Kiss and all the theatrics. It's like screw that. We're just gonna play music, Blue Jeans, stuff like that. And I think music needed that. It needed an enema, like Joker says in the first Batman film. This world needs an enema or whatever, this town. So I do think it had to happen, because they needed to kill hair metal. And then, music got out, Wild Side. Yeah, that's a great song. Okay, Sonic Goon, I'm going to write this down. This will be my music listening for tomorrow. What is it? I would recommend, how do you say that? Plini? 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 The Contortionist? Okay. I will do that. Yeah. I know he was sick. Paul Rogers. Yeah, that's the Bad Company guy. Yeah, that guy was the real deal, man. And when all those singers in a time when they were all doing like the was it like the Van Halen high voice stuff, Paul Rogers was very soulful. I liked that. I think that's why I liked grunge too, because it was a nice departure from all that high range stuff, which I also think needed to go away. There's some bands that I do like Rush, but there's some bands like even like Coheed and Cambria that I listen to that I have to be in the mood because those voices are too freaking loud. They're too not loud but high. Yeah, Free was Paul Rogers' band before that. Suicidal Tendencies, I like those guys too. What was that one band that some of the guys from Suicidal formed, and was it guys from Chili Peppers? Chili Peppers, I really like. That's a band I like too. Those are just some rockin' dudes, and I like this. Like it's like soul rock. Like it's kind of got these soul things. High pitched voice. Yes, thank you, Arthur Brown. What are they called? Infectious Grooves. Oh my gosh, you guys are on it. You guys are on it. Yeah, that first Infectious Grooves album was pretty cool. I think even like, isn't Ozzy? Doesn't they get Ozzy to sing like he does the chorus in Therapy? Therapy. Yeah, I like that band. Getting Your Funk All Over Me. Yeah, it's funk metal. Yeah, and I do think like there were Faith No More and the Chili Peppers. I kind of like that funk rock stuff too, because there's bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire. I absolutely love bands like that. The Commodores, I like some of that shit too. like the older Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like those guys were like the Black Kiss. I know that the Funkadelics, like they say the Black, but like the Commodores, man, those guys wore like crazy costumes and shit. They were all space age, man. Those guys were pretty cool. I like that. And man, there's something about like those guys could dance like the Jackson 5 with their instruments and stuff. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I see a band, Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, Rage Against the Machine were, yeah, they were kind of brought some of that. Wait, dang, Suicidal Tendencies had a hate boner for Rage Against the Machine. Did they really? That first Rage, those first two Rage albums are absolutely amazing, and I think they were the pioneers of that rap rock thing. They did it really, really well. And I said in the day, this was before Linkin Park, I said, if there's a band that could bring in melody, singability to one of those rap rock type of songs, like structurally, they would clean up. And then Linkin Park came out, and holy shit, man. I'm not a big Linkin Park fan, but I understood the commerciality of that band. Average White Band, yeah. Those guys they are white, right? The Average White Band. I think they're all white. Do they dance? Oh, they probably do. Yeah, it was hardcore because I don't think they had like traditional choruses. They didn't have melodies. They had more like anthems. They were more like just freaking rock anthem type stuff. Yeah, Public Enemy. Yeah, Anthrax. Yeah, I like that stuff. The first two albums were badass. Grand Funk Railroad. I like some of that stuff. Yeah, they kind of brought the funk into the rock. The funk rock. So there's a band called Prong. Okay. And Helmet. I heard Helmet. Okay. All right. I'm getting lost in the chat now. Body Count, Foghat. Foghat was they were kind of funky too. Very good, you guys. So thank you so much for letting me. It's kind of cathartic for letting me to kind of talk through Eddie Van Halen's passing. It did help, you guys. It really did. I was pretty emotional coming into this chat. It's weird, like sometimes you don't really know what kind of influence people have on your life until you hear news like this. And and this was mine. So Eddie Van Halen, R.I.P. Godspeed, my friend. And he's up there in rock and roll heaven right now. He's just doing some power chords and some hammering, some shredding. I think up to Eddie, even the term shredding didn't exist until Eddie came out. So they even had to invent a term to describe what he does, which is awesome. So R.I.P. my friend. You brought me hours and hours of enjoyment. I do appreciate all your music, and the great part is it was so well documented. So we have some Van Halen to listen to years from now, years to come. Thank you, Alan. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't whelp up. That would have been embarrassing. Oh, Christ Energetics. I know you're a musician, so R.I.P. Eddie, perhaps the greatest ever. Made for millions of great moments. Yeah. Yeah, Randy passed before his time. Yeah, he kind of took that. He kind of brought like a more classic, like Randy brought that shredder type Eddie Van Halen thing in with more like classic. Even though Eddie could play like classic shit, like acoustic guitar and stuff like that, but he didn't incorporate it into the music as much. So sad. R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen. I'm gonna listen to a lot of Van Halen songs tonight. Even that last album, David wasn't as strong vocally, but I didn't mind it. I thought that song "Tattoo" was pretty hokey, but some of the other stuff was pretty good. Yep. Yeah, I really like it. I'm very passionate about music. I think the two things in my life that really are primary is, well, three: comics, music, and just artwork, drawing, and things like that. Just love it. Possibly. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. I hope this helped everybody that was a big Eddie Van Halen fan as well. I met Jakey Lee. Jakey Lee was he was definitely in the LA club scene at the time. There were a lot of guys that were in the wings that came from the same school that were in a good place to take over for Randy. There was Carlos Carvazo as well, who in multiple bands that I was in had a big influence on. And he was playing in a band called Snow, and then later he was the guitar player for Quiet Riot. He took over for Randy Rhoads and Quiet Riot. So there's that. Zakk Wylde's good too. Not taking anything away from that guy. Yes. Yes. And thank you, Eddie Van Halen. The Beat It solo, yeah. I hope he actually wrote that part too, because that's pretty iconic. Just that lick, not just the solo, but that. Brad Gillis. Oh my gosh, you guys are talking about all these blasts from the past. Brad Gillis played for a band called Rubicon or some stupid name like that. And then later, little known fact, played with Ozzy. If I'm not mistaken, Jasper, correct me if I'm wrong, since you know. And then played with that, oh my gosh. It wasn't Damn Yankees. It was that, what the hell was that band called? They did that song, Sister Christian. I thought, like, Brad Gillis was the best part of that band. Yeah, Night Ranger. Yeah, I thought they were okay, but even those guys got like overly ballady and stuff like that. Yeah, they had a couple songs against Night Ranger, but yeah, I think that was Brad Gillis. Like he had a pretty healthy career if you think about it. Not many people know about the guy though. Yeah, I think Night Ranger had the battling guitars. Like they brought that back. They had two really good guitar players. I just think they suffered lyrically, and I think they kind of suffered from their time actually, because I think that hair metal stuff. I think they could have done some more just like straightforward rock and roll. Even Damn Yankees, I thought, fell short. Like when you think about the guys in that band, especially Ted Nugent, like how did stuff become so sappy? All right. Well, thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. And we had a big loss today. I can't wait for 2020 to be over. I'm really, really hoping that 2021 is better. It looks like that Black and White is probably going to come out in 2021 for the second volume. This year is blowing by. I'm going to be moving locations. So I think I'm just going to have to take some pressure off me and the family, fulfill the Corona campaign, fulfill what's left of the Second Chance Black and White campaign, get this house finished as far as make it sellable, sell the house, go to Texas, pick out a house, and then move. So I have quite a bit on my to-do list as far as 2020. So it looks like 2021 is going to be the big move. Hey, Pamela, you want to say hi to everybody? And I keep calling your daughter Pamela for some reason. I called the damn cat Pamela last night.
You called him Amanda too.
Oh, maybe it was Amanda then. I don't know. I don't even remember my cat's name. What's the cat's name? Stupid?
Art.
He's
How
not
do you
stupid.
guys put up with him?
That cat's very smart.
He is smart.
Uh-oh. All right, here he comes. I got to turn on the light for him or you're not going to be
begs.
Or he does tricks, actually. He does like doggy tricks. All right. Get him on camera. Bring him in closer so the light can hit him. All right, this is Momo. Momo's into his what year?
He's going on 12.
It's going on 12 years. This cat right here is an old veteran, but he still plays like a baby cat. So he'll play fetch. If you throw something, he'll run after it. He'll bring it back. And you know what? He'll play. He doesn't even get tired, right? Remember, like, what was it? Scrapper and Boomies got tired when they got older. He'll just keep doing it.
He's so fun too, because at night we'll hear kitchen chairs and dining room chairs being flung across the floor, and you think somebody's in your house, but it's just him. He's playing.
Yeah, he plays rough, man. He has toys all over the place, so he'll just bat them around. And then we have travertine flooring on the ground on the downstairs, and so he'll run after the toy. He'll grab it, but he has so much momentum, he'll just slide on the tile, and then he'll hit things. So you'll hear squeak. And when we first heard it, remember, we thought somebody was breaking into the house. Yeah. So now we're used to it. So he plays while we're sleeping. So he plays pretty tough. He plays pretty hard. And he's an old veteran, but man, he plays like a kitten.
And like Art said, he does tricks. You tell him to speak.
Oh, somebody's saying hi, Momo.
You tell him to speak, he speaks. You say back legs, he'll beg on his back legs. And you tell him to sit, he sits.
Yeah, if you have a little treat, and yesterday I got to do it without any coaxing. He must have really wanted those treats.
Mm-hmm. And if you say, Momo, kiss, he puts his little head up to be kissed.
Kid will kiss him on his freaking mouth. Women are weird. Women are freaking weird. See, look, he's already playing. What's he doing?
Oh, he hears the guys.
Look at the chair. Look at the chair's moving. I have a Captain Kirk chair. Well, I should have played it. Okay, so where's the chair? It's right there, spinning around, pal. Just hit it and just kind of. So he was looking out the window while it was spinning around. So he got a little bit more than he bargained for. All right. So do you have any parting shots, Pamela?
No. Just thank you guys for everything that you guys do. It's so appreciated.
Yes, and you got, for the last couple of days, you've been post office sending stuff out, right?
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of boxes downstairs, so those will probably go out either today or tomorrow, right?
Going out tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So everything is still being fulfilled, going out daily. So, and this is all black and white.
Yes.
The volume 2 or volume 1, Second Chance.
Yes.
All right. Somebody keeps saying Molly Hatchet. I guess I got to say Molly Hatchet. So Molly Hatchet, they were Southern rock though, but they weren't funk rock. They were more southern rock. Yeah. Pocket Panther, the real Black Panther. All right, you guys. So thanks again. Take care. Thanks again for the super chats. You guys are the best. See you tomorrow for a Pontificators, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So take care. And also, you guys, Starlight Cats launched the other day. Go back that's Shane Davis's book. And also, I think it was a week or so ago, Warts and All, EBS's book, launch. So go back those 2 books. Chronomechanics is still in demand. Go check that out. And that's my plug. That's my plug for today. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night.